Companies created during slowdowns. Why? Hey everyone, it's Wolfgang. This is kind of an important topic right now. There are parts of the economy that are slowing down a bit. Surprisingly, a lot of companies, new companies, start during economic slowdowns. That's what this video is going to cover. Starting with Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's got started during a recession. It was the late 1950s, 1958-59 recession. Joseph Coulomb, the founder, started Trader Joe's during a recession. It's huge now. It's a hugely successful company. It's all over the country. It started, I believe, in California, and it has grown continuously since then. Started during a recession. Okay, Bill Gates. If you look up oil embargo, if you look up long lines at gas stations, you will find these years, 1973, 1975. That period of time, OPEC put an oil embargo on the U.S. and stopped importing oil, supposedly, to the U.S. Due to OPEC's embargo. There were long lines at gas stations. People were given certain days they could get gas at gas stations and certain days they could not. And each person had a different day. It was rationed. It was like rationing gasoline during a war. It was pretty wild. So Bill Gates started Microsoft during that recession, during that downturn. That was a serious hit on the U.S. economy. Trip Hawkins, there was 11% unemployment in 1981 through 1982. 11% unemployment, really high unemployment. It's like almost 3 times the unemployment that we have now. He started Electronic Arts during very high unemployment. He had a very good job at a tech company. He quit that job. He started Electronic Arts. The rest is history. It's a huge company. MailChimp. If you're in marketing, you know what MailChimp is. If you have received email marketing, you have received through MailChimp. MailChimp became a very huge, very successful online email marketing company, started during the dot-com crash in 2001. So these people, Joseph Coulomb, Bill Gates, Trip Hawkins, Ben Chestnut, and a lot more entrepreneurs didn't care about the downturn in the economy they were confronting. Just the opposite. They took advantage of it. There's a reason for that. That's the point of this video. I'm going to explain why they behave that way, why they think and act that way. There's a reason entrepreneurs are successful when they start companies in economic slowdowns. Okay, another example, Elon Musk. He was a physics undergraduate. I have to tell you, I was just starting my career when he had graduated. If you had a software engineering degree, you could definitely find work, right? But if you had a physics degree like he had, good luck getting a software engineering job. I don't know if companies are still as picky now as they were back then, but if you had a physics degree, great, you graduated with a physics degree. That does not qualify you to write code. And you would have a very, very difficult time getting a job writing code. And he actually got turned down by Mark Andreessen for a job at Netscape. Netscape was just getting started. That was the first big internet browser company, the Netscape browser, started by Mark Andreessen. So Elon Musk ran an early startup company, an early online directory called Zip2. That was his first success. He ran that for, I think, 5 years and sold it. And that was his first big success. But he was not hireable as a physics major. So that just gives you an idea. Adversity, right? Economic adversity or wrong degree adversity, we're going to start successful companies. There's a reason why entrepreneurs succeed when they do that. Right now, we have a slowdown in a part of the economy, right? This is a good time to start a business, to create a startup company. Here's an example of some companies we all know that were started during economic downturns. Uber was launched during the Great Financial Crisis in 2009. Stripe was started in 2010, same Great Financial Crisis. In fact, most of these were started during the Great Financial Crisis. WhatsApp, 2009. Airbnb, 2008. And you've got to think, all these companies getting started during a pretty hard, that was like the worst economic downturn this country had seen since the Great Depression. It was much worse than what these guys had looked at. The Great Financial Crisis was very bad. It affected real estate. Real estate is known as a widely held asset. It affects companies and people, office, buildings, residences, homes. So it affects a broad part of the economy. That's what we were faced with during the time that these companies were started. Pinterest started during the Great Financial Crisis in 2010, Venmo 2009, Dropbox started at the very beginning of the great financial crisis in 2007. You have to wonder, how did these companies get investment? Investors know the mind of entrepreneurs, and I'm going to explain what that mindset is as we go through this video. Okay, so NerdWallet started in 2009, Dropbox 2007. Okay, so this is the very beginning. I couldn't fit everything on the board, but the first part of this I could. I did fit on the board. Why does a slow economy lead to so many startups? This is just a short list. There were a lot of companies that are very successful now started during the great financial crisis by very humble startup people who did not have a lot of success before they started these now very large companies. Okay, why does a slow economy lead to successful startups? The first thing is the founder mindset. Founder-minded people are impatient. They tend to be impatient, right? Elon Musk, when he could not get a job writing code, he created his own software company. This is an impatience mindset. I want it now, and how do we make it happen? How do we make a startup company happen? It's actually not that difficult, but it does require some willingness to stick to things when the going gets rough. Okay, so the way you do it is you start the company. You find early customers, one or two, just find one or two customers just to give yourself some confidence that you're making something people will pay for. Once you start finding customers, you can find investors. Okay, so we did that right out of college. Me and my three college lab partners. We did that out of college. We started a software company. We made the product. We found some early customers. So it's not that difficult to do this. The tricky part is, especially if it's your first time, is knowing that you're on the right track. For example, if you find early customers like we did, that is the right track. That will at least lead you down a path. Will you have to pivot and change the product? Possibly, right? But as long as you get to the point where you found early customers, that should tell you, and pay attention to this, that you have some intuition about what the public wants in your particular space. You have an ability to detect demand, to know when there's demand for something. Creating a product, then being able to sell it, that means you have been able to, divine the need of people and the ability to make a product to meet a need. So after you start, make the product, find early customers, find investors, you can then scale up the business. So there's more here. I could not fit everything on the board. So part of the entrepreneur mindset, it comes from what an employee actually is, okay? If you're an entrepreneur, if you're the sort of person who says to yourself, I can be an employee, I don't have a problem with that. I can work in a job, I can do well, I can produce a product or a service, no problem. But if you have ability beyond that, you will know it. You will most likely say to yourself, I can do this. I can either create the product that's being sold or perform the service. You might say to yourself, I want more. I can do more. I'm capable of more than I'm doing now. So what is an employee, right? An employee is the person who's doing the work. They're either creating the product that's being sold or they're performing the service. Okay? Generally, the employee is not the same as the person who finds the customer. If you can do both, which is what we did, find early customers, create a product or a service and find early customers. That's basically what a company is. Create a product or service that people will pay you for, find customers. And you're on the path to developing your company, to being able to scale up a company. So if you have a boss, if you're an employee and you have a boss, the boss is basically like a middleman. It's someone who, this could be the boss, the executives in the company. They are between the customer and you. You're making the product or performing the service. Then there's a customer on the other side paying for it. In the middle is your boss, the executives in the company. If you eliminate that part and go direct to the customer, if you start your company, either product or service, and you find your own customers, you can eliminate the boss and the executives in the company. You can create your own company. A boss or an executive in a company is just a middleman separating you from customers. If you can figure out how to find your own customers, in our case, what we did is we started off placing ads. We placed ads to find customers. We found customers with our ads. We sold product through those ads. Okay, that's not the only way to do it. There's a lot of ways to market a product. You can find online if you search Alex Hormozy, for example, has a couple of books on how to find customers. That would be a good starting point. So if you eliminate your boss and the executives in the company, if you decide to create your own product and find your own customers, you have more control over how things are conducted, how your activities are organized, and you can have more control over the money side. So there's a potential to earn more than if you're an employee. Okay, so this is why slow economies lead to startups, because entrepreneurs have this mindset. They want something now, right? Okay, the economy is slow. That just means companies are not going to hire because they can't find customers. Maybe I can find my own customers. That's what we did. We created a product, we found customers. Okay, so this is why slow economies lead to startups. Impatient founders, people who know that they can do more than they're actually doing. Creating the product or performing the service and finding customers. So how do you start a company? I'll tell you how we did it. Step one, we were conservative about it. We had full-time jobs, and we started our company. We created this product. We placed ads on the side after work. So we had a source of income so we could take care of ourselves and pay our bills. So you keep a regular job to pay your bills. You start the company on the side, and then you will know when and if to quit your full-time job for your part-time job. So in the case of Ben Chestnut, he started MailChimp. He was actually running, he was actually running a marketing agency, I believe. They were running a marketing agency, and MailChimp was a product that they launched. They did not initially intend to make it this huge. I mean, this company sold for like $12 billion to Intuit in 2021, like $12 billion. This guy's a billionaire, right? But this product, initially when they created it, it was not created to be a standalone product, but it became popular, and eventually they knew it was time to focus full-time on the product. You will know when and if to give up your full-time job and switch to full-time entrepreneur. It's easiest to do this in a lot of ways if you are operating a service business. Service business could be a marketing agency, a software development business, a cleaning company, a plumbing business, electrical, services, things that people will pay you for to do. If you are in real estate, your service might be you provide cabinets for people who are doing remodels for their kitchens. You find the source of the cabinets, you take measurements, and you deliver and install cabinets for your customers. So service or product business. In our case, we started a product business on the side. We were this impatient mindset. Okay, we have a regular job. We're making very good money. We're software engineers in Silicon Valley, but we're capable of more. Can we find our own customers? The answer was yes. We had to learn how to do it. We found early customers by advertising. So that's kind of the story about why companies get created during times like this when the economy is kind of slow. Generally, founders know either they get disappointed and they cannot find work that they're actually capable of doing. I mean, Elon Musk writing code, he was capable of writing code. Mark Andreessen should have hired him. If Andreessen would have hired him for Netscape, who knows what would have happened. The frustration of not being able to find a software job. He had a physics background. That, it would be very difficult in Silicon Valley during those days to convince anyone, unless it was a relative, someone you knew very well. It would be very difficult walking in cold off the street with a physics degree and getting a software engineering job. Very difficult. So either you start a company, he started Zip2, you start a company out of frustration for that reason, or you discover you have a founder mindset and you start a company because you know you're capable of more. You already know you can create the product. You write the code. You start saying to yourself, I have this boss. My boss has his boss. Those are executives in the company. And all they're doing is finding customers for me because I'm the one creating the product. The customer is getting the product. These people in the middle, they're just facilitating the exchange between me, the person making the product or service if you run a service business, and the customer. So why don't we eliminate the middleman, the boss and the executives? Let's find our own customers. So that's why a lot of companies get started in slowdowns. This is a short list. These were companies that are huge now, worth billions, right? They were all started in like the worst economic downturn that we've seen in a very long time, the Great Financial Crisis. So that's inspiration. If you have any questions about any of this, please post in the comments. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have. I really want to thank everyone for watching, and have a great day.